Welcome to Wild, Women in Lending Determined to Make an Impact. I'm your host, Robin Lavasser. They say our biggest fear is not that we are inadequate. It's being powerful beyond measure. In this podcast, I will share how to break through imaginary ceilings, lean into success, discovering your purpose, and understanding how to create the business and life of your dreams. From failures to triumphs and all the tactics in between, let's jump into the wild arena together. Well, welcome back to Wild with Robin Lavasser. I can tell you that it was really easy for me to play small at the beginning of my business, and I didn't even realize that I was. I felt like I was playing big, but the truth is I wasn't even scratching the surface. And once I really got started and was in everything from coaching, talk a lot about that, right? The value of a coach, which is a different episode. But as I was growing, there was this space that I hit, and I remember it being so hard. There being a lot of energy dips, reality setting in, hard things to figure out, scale as if they'll call it. That, one of the things they say often is really easy to start a business. It's incredibly hard to scale a business. As I would vent and talk and ask for advisement from, people who have, forged that path before me, they would kind of smile and say, oh, you're in the dirty middle. It's so funny because everything new is so exciting and amazing on day one, right? I challenged my team at one point in the past couple of years to show up January 1st as if it was your very first day ever in mortgage. How eager were you to learn, right? How excited were you to be part of something? How eager were you to prove yourself, right? How hard were you willing to work? What was the extra mile, the excitement, all of those things? And then, of course, there's celebration, right? Everything that you start to figure out, it feels like the results, the win, the champagne moment, if you will. I broke a record, I broke another record, and that's really easy to do at the beginning, right? If you did 0 loans and you all of a sudden did 1, here's a newsflash, you doubled, right? If you did, 1, all of a sudden you did 2, here's a newsflash, you doubled. That gets harder and harder, no different than anything that we do in life, whether it's weight loss or years of marriage, if you will, or bank account savings, right? Easy to save 100, maybe more challenging to save 200, right? Everything at some point starts to compound, and as great as that can be, there's also a challenge to keeping up, scaling, and then staying aligned with your vision, your dreams, what you want to do. And so it's interesting when all of a sudden the ideas you have and the outcomes to get achieved start to get very hard. I want you to pause and realize, wait a minute, I'm in the dirty middle. And the truth is it's uncomfortable, and it's where most people slide back to comfort, which is right? Making yourself a little smaller, defaulting to the range, if you will, the ceilings, the temperature check that you've already given yourself, the thermostat that you yourself are set at in business and life in general. And you say, hey, and there's not a negative to that. You might say, actually, this is what fulfills me. I'm really happy at this level. Then there's that other piece of the dirty middle, and it is hard to push through. And I can tell you, I've had to push through it many times in business. If I'm being honest, I feel like I'm kind of there right now in many ways. It's not a detour. It's actually part of the path. It's where the growth happens. It's where character is built. It's where people prove that they're more committed to the outcome than all the conflict being had, right? The outcome versus the conflict, all the stress, all the discord, all the discomfort, all the hard things, all the setbacks potentially, all the failing forwards. It's where you truly see how committed you are to the outcome over all of the hard. And that's the dirty middle. So my own career, I've lived through so many dirty middles. I can't even tell you. Projects that have dragged, markets that have shifted, people who have quit, strategies that have looked better on paper than they ever did in execution. And every time I've learned the value of patience and persistence, the value of not having perfection, and the keys to pushing through. So how do we lead well? How do we lead ourselves well? How do we lead our mindset in the dirty middle? And not easy. I will tell you that it's not easy. So one is name it. Tell your team it feels hard because it is hard. So when you think of naming something, you say, I'm going to call it out for what it is. This is hard. This is uncomfortable. We've failed. We've had setbacks, but that's also where breakthroughs are born. And I think sometimes as leaders, I know that I've had perfectionist syndrome or protection syndrome where you don't want to call things out. But here's the thing. The call out makes everybody go, what I was thinking, they already know. And there's a sense of leadership leadership in that is so powerful because you're comfortable being vulnerable. You're comfortable calling something out. You're comfortable saying, this is hard. This sucks, if you will, right? Like I realize this has been not as ideal as we expected. Things didn't go as planned. We've had setbacks. People have quit. Whatever's gone on, you're willing to acknowledge it. What I've done for a long time is we'll be fine. And then the inside, people are thinking, I have more to say. I have more feelings, but my leader's not letting it out. So I won't let it out either. It's okay as a leader to say, I named it. I named it. I told the truth about it. I acknowledged it. Let's move forward. Second, break it down. Big outcomes can feel overwhelming. Dirty middles shrink when you create smaller wins and milestones. I use the baseball analogy a lot. There's a saying, and I was never a baseball player or a softball player, but my son was, and he would be out there and the team would get into a bit of a slump. And one of the things that we'd say is hits are contagious, meaning if somebody would just get their bat on the ball, it would spark something. It would reinvigorate the team. People would get excited. A base runner can change an entire game in baseball, which is why it's so fun to watch the strategy. So one of the things the coaches would do when they were young is if they were in a slump, if one person was for sure in a slump and they're the next one up to bat, they would have them bunt. Regardless of what needed to happen, they'd often have them bunt. Why? Because touching the bat to the ball, having better odds of getting on base, had the kids feeling like there was hope. Meaning, in business, you might break something down into a small win. You might stop and say, you know what? We got 3 great surveys. You know what? Let's get hyper focused on the one lead we got today, the referral, the past client referral, the thank you card. Let's read that aloud. Make a bigger deal out of wins and milestones. Hey, you just celebrated 6 months at the company. Hey, you just had your 10th review with your name mentioned. Whatever it is, sometimes we have a really hard time picking out small wins and small milestones that really do contribute to getting out of the dirty middle. And we get very focused on everything that's hard and trying to solve all the hards without focusing on the wins. That's a mistake. So do a great job of breaking it down so that we're not just chasing the very big outcome. We're actually celebrating the really small wins day by day, week by week. It's interesting when you're mourning. I know some of the advice is just put your feet on the floor every day. In AA, they talk about just one day at a time, just one, maybe just 1 hour at a time if you need it even smaller than that. And sometimes that's all that people can handle versus the big outcome. We're going to close 100 loans this year. And all of a sudden you're really off track and it's the first quarter of the year or the second quarter of the year and everyone's feeling overwhelmed and starting to feel like it's not going to happen and they're stressing and oh my gosh, and maybe we should, the 100 seems impossible all of a sudden or very improbable, if you will, and that gets overwhelming instead of just, guys, we closed 8 this month, high five, right? Like really celebrating the small, breaking those down, very big deal. The last part is anchor and purpose. When I say anchor and purpose, I mean remember why you started it to begin with. What were you chasing? Why it matters, who you are impacting. The clarity fuels endurance. The clarity that you have will fuel the endurance. The clarity will help you deliver confidence and clarity to the team, and then that will help you fuel endurance through the hard stuff. The dirty middle is hard, and it comes up in small bits, and it comes up in big pieces, and it will show up no matter what. And if you're not currently in the dirty middle, I guarantee you it's coming again. It will come because all business at all times has a moment of a dirty middle, whether it's directly on a project, it's on the big vision or idea, it happens, and it can create a lot of, you call it the messy middle, right? And what I would tell you is don't give up during it. That's where real leaders are made. That's where real visions are achieved. That's where real strength in teams and adversity can create a chain reaction of triumph, right? And when you're in the dirty middle, it's not a sign of failing. It's a sign that you're on the right track and you're pushing through the hardest parts, right? The growth parts, the piece that's like, you see these circumstances and you hear the stories and whether they're fables, fictional or nonfiction, where people gave up right before they were about to have that breakthrough. They quit and then somebody else got the breakthrough. I bet that happened when the first man stepped on the moon. I bet other people maybe held back for a minute and all of a sudden somebody broke through and made it happen. Whoever thought that was possible, right? But somebody got out of the dirty middle and all of a sudden a big, big, big thing. Imagine if Thomas Edison had never figured out, I believe that's who did electricity, testing my history right now, but had never pushed through the dirty middle, right? And I bet people thought he was crazy. I know that I can tell you that I never thought we would talk on a phone that didn't have a curly cord attached to it that you had to stretch. I remember I had a 100-foot cord that I could stretch and hide from my parents to talk on the phone. I never thought I would carry this around every single day and have all the data at my fingertips. So the dirty middle is a space that all of a sudden the other side has innovation, it has breakthroughs, and it makes makes room for everybody else. Make sure that you understand that and the roots of what you're trying to do. That's what'll help you hold on to allow you to thrive in those seasons ahead. That's what happens. So I'll leave you with this. At the end of every dirty middle, messy middle is a clean win, is that shiny gold medal, is that excitement. And the win tastes even sweeter because you went through the hard stuff. Anything that's fast and easy, it's fun for a minute, but that lasting effect, man, it doesn't linger with a sense of pride that you achieved despite having a dirty middle in the middle. So do what you can to keep pushing through. Don't quit, even in the hard. Maybe ask for a little more direction, maybe ask for a little more foundation, ask for help, get coaching, all of those things, but don't quit. And I promise you, you'll see great wins on the other side. If this was helpful, I hope you share it. Thanks for joining me on Wild.